Bhfuil just buchas go bhfuil de Sinn Féin mar jaall an rún seo a thuairt os cór na dála nniu is rún uafásach tábhachtach tá sé duchreite go bhfuil muidir go fannacht an méid am le haidh an bóthar seo agus tá sé duchreite go bhfuil an méid daoine tar éis a chuid bheatha a chailúnt an bóthar seo le fad an lá. I want to thank obviously the Enough is Enough campaign for their efforts to bring to the fore publicly and politically this particular campaign, and I want to thank them for their presence in the Dáil here today. And I also want to thank Tyrone GAA for the massive efforts that they've made to ensure that this campaign has been lifted to national prominence. But I want to give special thanks to Kate Corrigan, who lost her son in an RTC on the A5 in Tyrone. And I want to pay tribute to her courage that she has shown in making the presentation that she did to the AV room today in Leinster House, but also for the work that she's been doing over the last number of years in relation to this. It is heartbreaking to think that any parent will be faced with such devastating news, and the manner in which Kate has dealt with that in terms of trying to make sure that this doesn't happen to any other family in the region is amazing. I'm sure that Kate doesn't want our thanks and she doesn't want our tributes. I imagine that she wants political action. And that's what is demanded of us here in Leinster House and is demanded of politicians right across Ireland, north and south. The A5 isn't just unsafe. The A5 is a death trap. An absolute death trap. It is incredible that nearly 50 people have been killed on that road since 2006, a year before the initial upgrade was announced. And that's a damning figure on the political system, that after an upgrade was announced, that the process has taken so long that 50 human beings, citizens, have lost their lives in that period of time. And in recent years, it's incredible that this road is leading to a death every 4 months. An incredible figure for any state, north or south, to stand over. I think the A5 upgrade is a monument to brutal maladministration that's happening. It's an absolute disgrace that such dysfunction has been allowed to continue in the planning process in the north, and it's an absolute disgrace that that has been allowed to happen. It is incredible that the concerns of a small group of opponents to the road can outweigh, in planning terms, the value of 50 human beings. No matter what scales that you put to try and judge this particular upgrade, that the views, the worries or the concerns of a small group of people can actually be placed at the same value as 50 human lives, and that any planning process would allow for that is absolutely disgraceful. I also think that the A5 upgrade is a monument to political failure, and the political system has failed the hundreds of people who have been killed or seriously injured on that road. And the truth of the matter is, north and south, the political system should be ashamed of itself in allowing for this to continue for so long without solution. Now, given how grave the experiences have been on the families, I think we shouldn't heap insults onto those families by any empty words politically here today. I believe that platitudes from any quarter are simply not acceptable. What's necessary is real plans, real timelines, real funding, and real action and real commitment. That is the only response that is justified in terms of the horror that has been experienced by so many families, especially in the northwest area. I also believe that the A5 is a monument to partition and the dysfunction that partition wreaks on spatial planning and development. The A5 shows in black and white, in material facts, that partition significantly disadvantages pretty much all aspects of life. Whether it's the lopsided infrastructure that has resulted as such, whether it's the lack of development that has resulted because of the lack of infrastructure, or whether it's the lower incomes that it's experienced. And definitely, in terms of the lives lost, there is definitely a significant cost to partition. And, Ireland's infrastructure is incredibly lopsided. A child looking at a map of Ireland for a couple of minutes could tell you very, very quickly the areas that are deemed important by the state and the areas that are not deemed important by the state. Because in reality, if you follow the money, you will follow what's important to a government. If you follow the investment, you'll follow what is deemed important to a government. So when you look at Ireland, between that Dublin to Belfast motorway and the Dublin to Galway motorway, that quarter of the country has been significantly left down by previous governments, leading to economic development, reductions, lower incomes, and more dangerous transportation. And I include the N2 as a symptom of that problem as well. And the N2 runs through my own county. The N2 is an extremely dangerous road. So many people have been killed on that road, and it's often discussed as a road of high collision. Slane in my own county has, for years, looked for a bypass. If you drive up the steep hill in Slane, you'll still see the row of crosses that stands there as a monument to the people who've lost their lives as a result of Slane waiting for that bypass. And one of the reasons why we have such a proliferation of heavy goods vehicles on that road is, again, the lack of a rail line to the northwest of the country. The only rail line in that direction is a rail line that stops at Pace. It doesn't make it up to Derry or to Belfast, which would take people off that road and goods off that road as well. And the question I asked myself is, would it happen anywhere else in Ireland? So would it happen in Dublin that you had a road where 50 people died in 70 years? Do you think that that would have been accepted by the state? Not at all. There would be outrage if a road was to continue in its bad condition for that length of time, leading to such deaths. It simply wouldn't happen. If this was Dublin, that project would be in the rear view mirror by some distance by now. And again, we have a very Dublin-centric government. We have one constituency in South Dublin where all 4 TDs are ministers, and we have 10 counties, mostly in Connacht Ulster, where there's no minister at all. That's incredible. One constituency in South Dublin where all the TDs are ministers, and 10 counties in Connacht Ulster where there's no minister at all. We have very much a Dublin-centric administration in this country, and it has to change. Because if regions are equal, they should get equal treatment in terms of investment. So we aim to fully support this motion. We fully support the campaign, and we believe that this needs to be rectified ASAP. We understand the Planning Appeals Commission has finalised its public inquiry, and the report is expected at the end of this year. But it is an imperative that this be the last administration, the last Dáil, to actually allow for this death trap to exist anymore. Gur maith agus a ceann comhairle.